Alright, hold up, because what you're about to hear might just shatter everything you thought you knew about FIFA World Cup anthems. We all know the drill, right? Every 4 years, the world stops spinning for one thing and one thing only: football, the beautiful game, the one universal language that unites billions across every continent, every time zone, every culture. And what makes a World Cup truly legendary? It's not just the goals, the saves, or the heartbreaks, it's the music. That one song that blasts through every stadium speaker, echoes in every fan zone, and gets stuck in your head for the rest of your life. We're talking Shakira's Waka Waka, Ricky Martin's The Cup of Life, Kanon's Wavin' Flag, absolute bangers that defined entire tournaments. But here's the thing that nobody talks about. What if some of the greatest World Cup anthems ever made were never actually World Cup anthems at all? What if a global phenomenon called BTS, yes, the Bangtan, the 7-member juggernaut from South Korea who literally rewrote the rules of pop music, already dropped tracks so perfectly tailored for a World Cup atmosphere that you'd swear FIFA personally commissioned them? Think about it. Massive stadium energy, lyrics about never giving up, beats that make 70,000 people jump in unison, melodies that transcend language barriers. BTS has all of that, and they've had it for years. So here's the million-dollar question. Which BTS song sounds so much like official World Cup anthems that it's honestly criminal they were never used? Could a song about setting everything on fire actually fit a football celebration? Can a track with a full marching band arrangement rival anything FIFA has ever produced? And what happens when a smooth, groovy summer hit accidentally becomes the perfect victory lap soundtrack? Buckle up, Army and football fans alike, because we're counting down the top 7 BTS songs that you absolutely, genuinely, 100% will not believe aren't official FIFA World Cup anthems. And trust us, by the time we hit number 1, you're going to be writing angry letters to FIFA asking why these weren't picked. Let's go. Number 7. Butter. The smoothest victory lap the World Cup never had. Okay, we're kicking things off at number 7, and honestly, even the entry-level spot on this list is already controversial because the song we're about to talk about literally dominated the entire planet in a way that most official World Cup anthems could only dream of. We're talking about Butter, released on May 21st, 2021, as BTS's second full English language single. And if you think this silky, disco-funk-infused track is just a cute pop song about being smooth, then buddy, you have absolutely no idea what you're missing. Let's rewind for a second and set the scene, because context is everything. When BTS dropped Butter, the world was still crawling out of one of the darkest chapters in modern history. The pandemic had shut down stadiums, canceled tournaments, silenced the roar of crowds across every continent. People were starving for joy, for movement, for that electric feeling of being alive in a crowd of strangers who all share the same heartbeat for 3.5 minutes. And then Butter glides in like a striker who just nutmegged 3 defenders and is casually jogging toward the goal with a smirk on his face. The opening alone, that snap, that bass drop, that effortlessly cool, from Jungkook, instantly sets a mood that screams celebration. Not forced celebration, not we're trying too hard to make you dance celebration, genuine, organic. We just scored in the 90th minute, and the confetti is falling celebration. And that's exactly why it belongs on this list. Now let's talk numbers, because Butter didn't just chart, it obliterated. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 10 consecutive weeks. 10. Let that sink in. In 2021, no other song on the planet could touch it. It racked up over 108 million YouTube views in its first 24 hours, shattering records that BTS themselves had previously set. Spotify streams? Over 1.2 billion and counting. It was the most streamed song on the platform for weeks. Radio stations across the United States, Europe, Latin America, and Asia couldn't stop playing it. It won Song of the Year at the American Music Awards, dominated the MTV VMAs, and became the soundtrack to literally every feel-good moment of that summer. Now here's where it gets interesting from a World Cup perspective. Think about what makes a great FIFA anthem. You need a song that transcends language. Butter is in English, immediately accessible to the global football audience. You need a song that makes people move. Butter has a groove so infectious that even your grandma who's never heard of K-pop starts bobbing her head within 5 seconds. You need a song that feels like victory without being aggressive. And this is where Butter absolutely nails it. The lyrics talk about pulling people in like gravity, making hearts melt, being smooth like butter. It's confident. It's celebratory. It's the musical equivalent of a footballer doing a perfectly choreographed celebration after scoring the winning goal. Imagine, just imagine, the final whistle blows, the winning team falls to their knees, the stadium erupts, and Butter starts playing over the speakers. Smooth like butter, like a criminal undercover, gone pop like trouble, breaking into your heart like that. Tell me that doesn't fit. Tell me that wouldn't be the most iconic World Cup moment of the decade. You can't, because it absolutely would. But let's dig deeper, because this isn't just about vibes, it's about musical architecture. Butter was produced by Rob Grimaldi, Stephen Kirk, Ron Perry, and Jenna Andrews, alongside RM and the BTS production crew. The track runs at approximately 110 BPM, which is right in the sweet spot for stadium anthems, not too fast that it loses its groove, not too slow that it kills momentum. The chord progression borrows from classic disco and funk traditions, the same musical DNA that powered some of the greatest sports celebration songs in history. The bass line is walking, groovy, laid back yet undeniably powerful, and the synth stabs in the chorus hit with the precision of a perfectly timed tackle. And then there's the bridge, oh man, the bridge, where the energy shifts, the beat drops for just a moment, and then comes roaring back with that "Got Army right behind us when we say so" line. Replace Army with any national team's fan base, and you've got yourself an instant stadium chant. That's not a coincidence. That's songwriting genius that accidentally created a World Cup anthem without even trying. Let's also talk about the visual component, because World Cup anthems aren't just heard, they're seen. The Butter music video is pure spectacle. The members of BTS, RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook are dressed in sleek, coordinated outfits, moving through sets that look like they were designed for a global broadcast. The choreography is tight, synchronized, explosive when it needs to be, and smooth when it pulls back. There's a sequence where Jungkook literally slides across the floor on his knees. Tell me that's not the most footballer celebration move you've ever seen in a music video. The color palette is vibrant, golds, whites, purples. It looks like a ceremony. It looks like an opening act. It looks like something that should be projected on a 360-degree screen in a stadium with 80,000 people losing their minds. FIFA literally spends millions of dollars trying to create exactly this kind of spectacle for their official anthem performances, and BTS did it casually as a regular comeback single. Here's the emotional layer that really seals the deal, though. Butter was released during a period when BTS was actively proving something the entire Western music industry doubted, that a South Korean group could dominate English-language pop charts on their own terms, without compromising their identity or selling out. That underdog energy? That "we showed up and we're taking what's ours" attitude? That's the essence of the World Cup. Every team that walks onto that pitch believes they can win, no matter the odds. Every fan who travels thousands of miles to watch their country play carries that same fire. Butter captures that spirit beautifully. It's not arrogant. It's not aggressive. It's just supremely confident. It says, "We're here, we're smooth, and you're going to love every second of it." That's what a great striker does when he steps up for a penalty in the final. That's what a goalkeeper does when he stares down the opposing team's best player. That's what an entire nation does when their anthem plays before kickoff. Butter is that energy, bottled into 3 minutes and 31 seconds of pure pop perfection. So why is it at number 7 and not higher? Simple, because as incredible as Butter is, the songs above it on this list tap into something even more primal, even more stadium-ready, even more aligned with the raw, unfiltered emotion of World Cup football. Butter is the perfect victory lap song. It's what plays when the trophy has been lifted and the champagne is flowing. But a World Cup anthem needs to do more than celebrate. It needs to ignite. It needs to inspire. It needs to make you believe in the impossible before the ball is even kicked. Butter starts the party after the final whistle. The songs higher on this list? They start the fire before the match even begins. That's the difference, and that's why Butter earns a well-deserved but definitive number 7 spot. But hold on, don't you dare click away yet, because if you thought a song about being smooth like Butter could fit a World Cup this well, wait until you hear what's coming at number 6. What if I told you there's a BTS track that was literally designed to make every single person on Earth dance, a song so universal in its message that it doesn't even need you to understand the lyrics to feel it in your bones? A track that uses sign language in its choreography to prove that music has zero barriers? Could a song about permission actually become the ultimate anthem of global unity? Stay right here, because number 6 is about to blow your mind. Number 6. Permission to Dance, the universal anthem FIFA didn't know it needed. Alright, number 6, and we are already climbing into territory that's going to make you seriously question how FIFA's music selection committee operates, because the song sitting right here at the 6th spot is not just a pop song, it's a full-blown movement. A declaration, a philosophical statement wrapped in a disco beat that was practically engineered to unite every human being on the face of this planet regardless of language, culture, nationality, or whether they prefer Messi or Ronaldo. We're talking about Permission to Dance, released on July 9, 2021, barely 2 months after Butter conquered the charts, and if Butter was the smooth victory lap, then Permission to Dance is the moment the entire stadium, every fan from every country, winners and losers alike, stands up, holds hands, and dances together because the beautiful game reminded them that we're all part of the same human family. And if that doesn't sound like the most World Cup thing you've ever heard, then you clearly haven't been paying attention. Let's get into the origins first, because the story behind this song is absolutely critical to understanding why it belongs on this list. Permission to Dance was co-written by Ed Sheeran, yes, that Ed Sheeran, the man who wrote Perfect, Shape of You, and has personally soundtracked about half of all wedding first dances in modern history, alongside Steve Mack, Johnny McDaid, and Jenna Andrews. When Ed Sheeran was asked about writing for BTS, he didn't approach it like a standard pop collab. He specifically said he wanted to write something that made people feel free, something that didn't require any specific cultural context to enjoy, something that was so fundamentally human that a farmer in rural Argentina and a teenager in downtown Tokyo would feel the exact same rush of joy when they heard it. And that right there is literally the mission statement of every FIFA World Cup anthem ever conceived. Waka Waka worked because African rhythms are universal. The Cup of Life worked because Ricky Martin's energy transcended language. Permission to Dance works for the exact same reason. It taps into something primal, something that existed in humanity long before football, long before music, long before language itself, the instinct to move, to celebrate, to connect with other humans through rhythm and movement. Now let's talk about the musical DNA of this track, because it's sneakily brilliant in ways that most casual listeners completely miss. Permission to Dance runs at around 125 BPM faster than Butter, pushing it right into that euphoric dance pop zone that gets stadiums bouncing. The production is built on a foundation of retro disco strings, hand claps, and a 4-on-the-floor kick drum pattern that is quite literally the oldest trick in the Make People Dance playbook. But here's the genius. The chorus doesn't rely on complex lyrics or clever wordplay. It strips everything down to the most basic, most universal sentiment possible. We don't need permission to dance. That's it. That's the message. You don't need anyone's approval to celebrate. You don't need a ticket, a VIP pass, a special invitation. The joy is yours, and nobody can take it away. Now transport that message to a World Cup setting. 80,000 people in a stadium, millions more watching from living rooms and fan zones and public squares around the world, and this song comes on. We don't need permission to dance. The Brazilian fan next to the German fan next to the Japanese fan next to the Nigerian fan, they all understand it instantly. They all feel it instantly. The barriers dissolve. The rivalries pause. For 3 minutes and 37 seconds, everyone on Earth is on the same team. If that isn't the purest definition of what a World Cup anthem should accomplish, then honestly, the concept doesn't exist. But here's where Permission to Dance does something that no official FIFA World Cup anthem has ever done, and this is the detail that genuinely puts it in a league of its own. The choreography incorporates international sign language. Let that hit you for a second. In the chorus, when BTS performs the dance, the key moves aren't just random pop choreography, they're actual sign language gestures for fun, dance, and peace. This was an intentional, carefully considered decision by BTS and their creative team at Big Hit Music. They wanted to ensure that even deaf and hard-of-hearing fans could participate in the experience, could feel included in the celebration. In a world where the FIFA World Cup positions itself as the single most inclusive sporting event on the planet, where the slogan is literally about bringing the world together. Can you think of a more inclusive gesture than building sign language into your anthem's choreography? The answer is no. You cannot. FIFA has spent decades and hundreds of millions of dollars on campaigns about unity, about breaking barriers, about football being for everyone. BTS did it in a dance move. They didn't write a press release about it. They didn't launch a marketing campaign. They just did it because that's who they are, and that's how deeply they understand the responsibility that comes with having a global platform. When the Permission to Dance challenge went viral on TikTok and social media, millions of people around the world, including people who had never used sign language before, learned those gestures. They learned how to say fun and peace with their hands. A pop song taught millions of humans a new way to communicate. Tell me that's not World Cup anthem material. I dare you. Let's also talk about the live performance legacy of the song, because studio recordings are one thing, but a World Cup anthem lives or dies on how it performs in a stadium. And Permission to Dance has been absolutely battle-tested. When BTS performed this song at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles during their Permission to Dance on Stage concert series in November and December 2021, something magical happened. Approximately 70,000 fans per night from dozens of different countries, speaking dozens of different languages, all sang every word, performed every sign language gesture, and created a wall of sound and energy that could be heard from blocks away. Videos from those concerts went viral, and the comments were filled with people saying the same thing over and over. This is what world peace looks like. That's not hyperbole. That's not fan exaggeration. When you watch those concert clips, you see it, the unity, the joy, the complete and total dissolution of every barrier that normally separates human beings from each other. That's what the World Cup promises. That's what the opening ceremony tries to create. That's what the official anthem is supposed to embody. And BTS achieves it every single time they perform Permission to Dance live, effortlessly, naturally, as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. The emotional weight of this song also can't be overlooked. Permission to Dance arrived during a period when the world was still largely under pandemic restrictions. Concerts were canceled. Stadiums were empty. Fans couldn't gather. The simple act of dancing with other people, something we took for granted our entire lives, suddenly felt like a distant memory. And into that void stepped BTS with a song that said, "You don't need permission. You don't need the world to be perfect. You don't need everything to go back to normal. The music is here, you're here, and that's enough." That message of resilience, of finding joy in imperfect circumstances, of refusing to let the world steal your happiness, that is the core of what makes the World Cup special. Every underdog team that defies the odds, every country that's never won a match, but shows up anyway with painted faces and thunderous chants, every kid who kicks a ball against a wall dreaming of glory, they all embody the spirit of Permission to Dance. You don't need anyone's approval to believe, to dream, to celebrate being alive. So why number 6 and not higher? Because as transcendently beautiful and universally unifying as Permission to Dance is, it leans more toward the celebratory aftermath than the competitive fire. A World Cup anthem needs a dual nature. It needs the warmth of unity and the heat of battle. Permission to Dance absolutely perfects the warmth. It's the group hug after the final. It's the lap of honor. It's the closing ceremony. But the songs above it on this list? They bring the heat. They bring the war drums. They bring the kind of energy that makes you want to run through a wall for your country. That's why Permission to Dance earns a powerful, emotionally resonant, deeply deserved number 6. But you are not ready for what's coming at number 5. Because what if I told you there's a BTS song that literally has the word fire in it? A track so explosively intense that it was used as actual background music for sports broadcasts across Asia? A song where the energy doesn't just rise, it detonates, like a bomb going off in the center circle of a packed stadium? Can a song about burning everything down actually become the ultimate football war cry? Number 5 is about to set this whole list ablaze. Number 5. Fire, the stadium detonator that should have opened every World Cup match. Number 5, and we are now entering the zone where the line between BTS pop song and official FIFA World Cup anthem doesn't just blur, it completely evaporates, because the track sitting at this spot is so ridiculously, absurdly, almost offensively perfect for a football stadium that the fact it was never used by FIFA should genuinely be investigated by some kind of international tribunal. We're talking about Fire, or as it's known in Korean, 불타오르네, released on May 2nd, 2016, as part of BTS's special compilation album, The Most Beautiful Moment in Life, Young Forever. And if you've never heard this song in the context of a sports arena, then you have been living a tragically incomplete life up until this very moment. Because Fire doesn't just fit a World Cup atmosphere, it is a World Cup atmosphere compressed into 3 minutes and 23 seconds of pure, unfiltered, absolutely unhinged energy that grabs you by the collar, drags you out of your seat, and dares you to sit back down. Spoiler alert, you won't. Let's set the stage with some context, because 2016 BTS was a very different animal than the global megastars you know today. In May 2016, BTS was still in their hungry era. They hadn't yet broken into the American market. They hadn't attended the Billboard Music Awards. They hadn't spoken at the United Nations. They were a group of 7 young men from a small entertainment company called Big Hit Entertainment, not the massive Hybe corporation it would eventually become. And they were fighting tooth and nail for every inch of recognition in an industry dominated by the massive Big 3 agencies, SM, YG, and JYP. They were underdogs in the truest, most raw, most cinematic sense of the word. And Fire was their battle cry. It was the song that said, "We don't care about your expectations. We don't care about your doubts. We don't care about your hierarchies. We're going to set everything on fire and build our own throne from the ashes." Now tell me, that energy doesn't perfectly mirror the spirit of every underdog nation that's ever walked into a World Cup and shocked the world. Iceland in 2018, beating Argentina in their group stage debut. South Korea in 2002, making it to the semifinals on home soil. Cameroon in 1990, reaching the quarterfinals and capturing the hearts of the entire planet. That raw, defiant, "We're not supposed to be here, but we're here and we're not leaving" energy, that's Fire. That's the song playing in the locker room before the biggest match of your life. That's the song blasting through your headphones as the team bus pulls up to the stadium and you see 80,000 people waiting for you. That's the song that turns nervous energy into rocket fuel. Now let's dissect the music itself, because Fire is a masterclass in controlled chaos. Produced by Dog, BTS's primary producer and one of the most underrated musical architects in modern pop, alongside RM, Suga, J-Hope, and Supreme Boy. The track is built on a foundation of hard-hitting trap beats fused with EDM synths that sound like they were specifically designed to bounce off stadium walls. The tempo sits at approximately 110 BPM, but it feels faster because of the relentless energy in the vocal delivery and the production's refusal to give you even a single second of rest. The song opens with a siren-like synth, literally a warning signal, an alert, a brace yourself moment before the beat drops and Jungkook's vocals come in with a melody that's equal parts aggressive and melodic. And then the chorus hits. Oh God, the chorus. 불타오르네. Screamed, chanted, held by 7 voices in unison, backed by a crowd roar effect that is so obviously designed for a stadium setting that it's almost laughable this was never used in a sports context. The word literally translates to "it's burning" or "burning up," and when you hear 70,000 people screaming it back at BTS during a live concert, the sound is so visceral, so raw, so physical that it doesn't just enter your ears. It reverberates through your ribcage, shakes your bones, and rewires your nervous system into a state of pure adrenaline. Replace those 70,000 army members with 70,000 football fans, and you have the single greatest stadium chant in World Cup history. Period. No debate. Conversation over. But here's the thing about Fire that separates it from your typical hype track. The lyrics actually mean something, and they mean something that is profoundly aligned with the World Cup spirit. RM's opening rap sets the tone immediately. He talks about living in the moment, about not worrying about tomorrow, about throwing away the rule book and dancing like nobody's watching. Suga follows with bars about burning through the night, about refusing to be ordinary, about choosing to go all in even when the safe bet is to play it conservative. And J-Hope, the group's main dancer and human embodiment of pure sunshine, brings a verse that's all about unstoppable momentum, about being so on fire that nothing and nobody can cool you down. These aren't just party lyrics. This is a philosophy. This is the mentality of every great footballer who's ever stepped onto the World Cup pitch. When Zinedine Zidane dribbled through the entire Brazilian defense in 2006, he was on fire. When Diego Maradona weaved past 5 English players in 1986 for the goal of the century, he was burning. When Kylian Mbappe scored a hat-trick in the 2022 final at the age of 23, he was, and no other word in any language captures that feeling better. Fire isn't just describing the state of being lit. It's describing the state of being alive at the highest possible intensity, when every cell in your body is operating at maximum capacity and the only direction you know is forward. That's football. That's the World Cup. That's fire. And here's a fact that most casual fans don't know: Fire has actually been used in sports broadcasting contexts across Asia. Korean sports networks have used it as background music for highlight reels. It's been played in baseball stadiums across South Korea during rally moments. Japanese variety shows and sports programs have featured it during competitive segments. The song's reputation as a hype anthem extends far beyond the K-pop world. Athletes, trainers, and sports psychologists have cited it as one of the most effective pump-up tracks in modern music. There was even a viral moment during the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics where South Korean athletes were seen listening to BTS, including Fire, in their pre-competition routines. The song has organically found its way into the sports world without any official partnership, without any corporate deal, without FIFA or any other governing body giving it a stamp of approval. It just fit. It fits so naturally, so perfectly, that people who work in high-performance athletics gravitated toward it instinctively. That tells you everything you need to know about why it belongs on this list. Let's talk about the choreography, because Fire features one of BTS's most physically demanding and visually spectacular routines, and it translates directly to the kind of spectacle that World Cup opening ceremonies strive for. The dance break in Fire is absolute madness. J-Hope takes center stage and delivers a sequence of moves so fast, so precise, so explosive that it genuinely looks like a controlled explosion in human form. The group formations shift constantly: circles, lines, V-shapes, cascading waves, creating patterns that would look absolutely stunning on a football pitch viewed from above by a billion television viewers. The energy of the performance never dips, never falters, never takes a breath. From the first beat to the last, it's maximum intensity, and when BTS performs it live, the stage literally looks like it might collapse from the sheer force of 7 men throwing everything they have into every single movement. That's the kind of performance energy that turns a World Cup opening ceremony from, "Oh, that was nice," to "I will remember this for the rest of my life." The cultural impact of Fire also deserves recognition. As of 2025, the music video has surpassed 900 million views on YouTube. It remains one of BTS's most played tracks at concerts, consistently ranking as a fan favorite for its ability to turn any venue into an absolute war zone of energy. It was the song that first put BTS on the radar of many international fans, the track that made people say, "Wait, what is this? Who are these guys? Why does this go so hard?" It was a turning point, a catalyst, a spark, appropriately enough, that ignited BTS's journey from Korean underdogs to global legends. And in the World Cup context, that origin story is everything. The World Cup loves a narrative. It loves a Cinderella story. And Fire, the Cinderella story. It's the song from the small company, the underdog group, the hungry artists who burned so bright that the entire world had no choice but to look. So why number 5? Because as explosively perfect as Fire is for a stadium setting, it's primarily a hype track. It excels at ignition, but doesn't carry the full emotional range that the greatest World Cup anthems possess. The songs above it on this list manage to combine that raw energy with deeper layers of meaning, with melodic sophistication, and with a sense of narrative that turns a 3-minute song into an entire story. Fire lights the match. The songs above it build the entire bonfire and then dance around it under the stars. Number 4. Mic Drop, the ultimate victory anthem for champions who talk their talk. Number 4, and ladies and gentlemen, we are now entering absolutely dangerous territory on this list, because the song sitting right here at the 4th spot is not just a World Cup anthem candidate. It's a full-blown declaration of war against every single person, team, nation, and pundit who ever dared to doubt you. We're talking about Mic Drop, released on September 18, 2017, as part of BTS's monumental Love Yourself, her mini-album, later remixed by legendary DJ and producer Steve Aoki on November 24, 2017, and if there has ever been a song in the history of modern music that more perfectly captures the feeling of lifting a World Cup trophy, staring directly into the camera, and telling the entire planet, "I told you so," then please show it to me, because I've been searching for years and I am absolutely convinced it does not exist. Mic Drop is arrogance perfected. It's confidence weaponized. It's the musical equivalent of a footballer scoring the winning goal in the final, ripping off his shirt, sliding on his knees, and pointing at every single critic in the stands. And it is glorious. Let's start with the backstory, because Mic Drop wasn't born in a vacuum. It was born from pain, from disrespect, from years of being underestimated, and that origin story is what makes it resonate so deeply with the World Cup narrative. By September 2017, BTS had already achieved remarkable success. They'd won their first Billboard Music Award for Top Social Artist earlier that year. They were selling out arenas across Asia. And their fanbase army was growing at a rate that the industry couldn't ignore. But here's the thing that most people forget. Even with all of that success, BTS was still being dismissed by large portions of the music establishment. Western media still treated them as a novelty. Korean industry insiders still questioned whether a group from a small company could sustain their momentum. Critics still wrote think pieces about whether K-pop was a real genre or just a manufactured fad. The disrespect was constant, relentless, and deeply personal. And Mic Drop was BTS's answer. Not a polite response. Not a diplomatic statement. A full-throttle, unapologetic, supremely cocky clapback that essentially said, "You doubted us? Cool. Watch us drop the mic on your entire existence." RM wrote the opening lines with surgical precision. "Did you see my bag? Did you see my bag? It's hella trophies and it's hella thick." And in one bar, he turned every award, every record, every achievement into ammunition. That's not just hip-hop bravado. That's the exact energy of a World Cup champion who spent 4 years listening to pundits say they couldn't win and then proved every single one of them wrong on the biggest stage imaginable. Now, let's break down the Steve Aoki remix specifically, because this is the version that transforms Mic Drop from a brilliant hip-hop track into an arena-shaking, stadium-rattling, earth-quaking monster that was practically built for the World Cup. Steve Aoki, the man who has headlined every major music festival on the planet, who has collaborated with everyone from will.i.am to Linkin Park, who literally throws cakes at his audience because his shows are that insane, took the original Mic Drop and injected it with EDM steroids. The remix opens with a filtered vocal loop that builds tension like the moments before kickoff when the camera pans across the faces of players standing in the tunnel, jaws clenched, fists tight, eyes locked forward. Then the beat drops, and when I say drops, I mean it falls from the stratosphere like a meteor aimed directly at your chest. The bass is so heavy it doesn't just thump, it detonates. The synths are aggressive, distorted, almost hostile. The trap hi-hats rattle like machine gun fire. And over all of this sonic warfare, BTS delivers verses with the calm, measured confidence of a striker who's already visualized the goal before the ball even reaches his feet. The Steve Aoki remix charted at number 28 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it one of the highest-charting K-pop songs in US history at that time, and the music video amassed over 1.3 billion views on YouTube, making it one of BTS's most-watched visual productions ever. Those aren't just impressive numbers. Those are World Cup anthem numbers. Those are the kind of metrics that make FIFA's marketing department wake up in a cold sweat wondering how they missed this. Let's talk about the lyrical content in detail, because Mic Drop contains some of the most quotable, most memeable, most swagger-filled bars in BTS's entire discography, and every single one of them translates perfectly to a World Cup victory context. Suga's verse is particularly devastating. He raps about how the haters' opinions are worth less than a penny, about how success is the best revenge, about how he's too busy counting achievements to care about the noise. Imagine those lyrics playing in the stadium as the winning team does their lap of honor, trophy held high, confetti raining down, while the camera cuts to the faces of rival teams and critics who spent the entire tournament predicting their failure. J-Hope brings a verse that's pure kinetic energy, rapid-fire delivery, wordplay that hits like a crossbar challenge, and an attitude that screams, "I worked harder than everyone in this building, and the results speak for themselves." And then RM closes it out with the titular mic drop, the ultimate full stop, the definitive, "I have nothing left to prove" moment that is so perfectly suited to a World Cup final that it almost feels like it was written with a golden trophy in mind rather than a music award. The live performance dimension of Mic Drop adds yet another layer to its World Cup credentials. BTS has performed the song at the American Music Awards in 2017, becoming the first K-pop group to perform at the AMAs, a historic moment that was watched by millions worldwide, and the performance was electric. The choreography for Mic Drop is aggressive, powerful, and dripping with attitude. There's a signature move where the members literally mime dropping a microphone, and when 70,000 fans do it simultaneously at a concert, the visual effect is staggering. Now imagine that synchronized move performed on a World Cup stage. Imagine the winning team's fans, millions of them, doing the mic drop gesture in unison as the song plays. It would be the most iconic celebration gesture since the Icelandic Viking clap took the world by storm during Euro 2016. The potential for Mic Drop to create a global cultural moment at the World Cup is not just high, it's inevitable, if only someone at FIFA had the vision to make it happen. Here's another angle that makes Mic Drop uniquely suited for the World Cup, the collaboration factor. The Steve Aoki remix also features American rapper Designer, whose ad-libs and energy add an additional layer of cross-cultural fusion to the track. This is a song that features Korean rappers, Korean singers, an American-Japanese DJ, and an American rapper, all operating at peak performance on the same track. That's not just a collaboration, that's a coalition. That's the musical version of the World Cup itself, where different cultures, different languages, different traditions come together in one arena to create something bigger than any of them could achieve alone. The fact that Mic Drop seamlessly blends Korean and English lyrics, hip-hop and EDM production styles, Asian and Western musical sensibilities, it's a living, breathing example of what the World Cup represents at its philosophical core. Unity through competition. Respect through rivalry. Greatness through the collision of different worlds. And let's not forget the impact of this song on BTS's trajectory, because Mic Drop was the moment when the Western music industry finally had to take BTS seriously. The AMA's performance, the Billboard charting, the record-breaking streams, this was the song that kicked down the door that fire and blood, sweat, and tears had been pounding on for years. Mic Drop didn't ask for permission to enter the global music conversation. It didn't knock politely. It broke in, dropped the mic, and walked out like it owned the place. In World Cup terms, this is the equivalent of a debut nation not just qualifying for the tournament, but making it to the knockout rounds and beating a traditional powerhouse in the process. It's Croatia reaching the 2018 final. It's Morocco making the semifinals in 2022. It's the kind of moment that changes the narrative permanently. After mic drop, nobody could pretend BTS was a novelty anymore. Just like after those tournament runs, nobody could pretend those nations weren't legitimate football forces. So why does mic drop land at number 4 and not on the podium? Because for all its incredible swagger and undeniable stadium energy, Mic Drop is primarily a victory song. It works best after the triumph has already happened. The greatest World Cup anthems don't just celebrate the win. They capture the entire journey, from the nervous anticipation to the grueling battle to the euphoric release. Mic Drop is the final chapter. It's the exclamation point. But the songs above it? They're the entire novel. They tell the story from beginning to end, and they make you feel every single page in your soul. That's why Mic Drop is a magnificent, swagger-drenched, absolutely deserved number 4. Number 3. DNA, the genetic code of a World Cup anthem that science can't explain. We have arrived at the top 3, and from this point forward, every single song on this list is operating on a level so cosmically aligned with the FIFA World Cup that it genuinely feels like the universe made a mistake. Like these tracks were supposed to be official anthems, but some bureaucratic mix-up in the space-time continuum sent them to a K-pop album instead of FIFA headquarters in Zurich. Number 3 is DNA, released on September 18th, 2017, as the lead single from BTS's Love Yourself, her mini-album, and this is the song that changed everything. Not just for BTS. Not just for K-pop. For the entire global music landscape. Because DNA didn't just cross borders, it rewrote the rules about which borders even exist anymore. And when you strip it down to its purest essence, when you listen to it through the lens of what makes a perfect World Cup anthem, you'll realize that DNA is so flawlessly suited for the biggest sporting event on Earth that its absence from any FIFA soundtrack is not just a missed opportunity, it's a genuine tragedy of modern music curation. Let's start with the moment this song entered the world, because the timing alone tells a story. September 2017, BTS was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to leap into a stratosphere that no Korean act had ever reached. They had just won their first Billboard Music Award a few months earlier. The world was watching. The pressure was astronomical. And in that moment, they didn't release a safe song. They didn't play it conservative. They released DNA, a track so bold, so colorful, so unlike anything on Western radio at the time that it was essentially a declaration. We're not going to become what you expect. You're going to become what we create. The song debuted at number 67 on the Billboard Hot 100, making BTS the first K-pop group to chart on the Hot 100 in over a decade, and the highest charting K-pop group at that time. The music video shattered YouTube records, accumulating over 20 million views in its first 24 hours. As of 2025, it has surpassed 1.9 billion views, billion with a B, making it one of the most watched music videos in the history of the platform. Those numbers don't just compete with World Cup anthems, they dwarf most of them. Shakira's Waka Waka, arguably the most iconic World Cup song of the 21st century, sits at around 4 billion views, but it had the entire FIFA marketing machine behind it. DNA reached nearly 2 billion views purely on the strength of BTS's artistry and ARMY's devotion. No FIFA partnership. No tournament tie-in. No global broadcasting deal. Just 7 guys from Seoul and a song so irresistible that nearly 2 billion humans clicked play. Now let's get into the sonic architecture, because DNA is one of the most brilliantly constructed pop songs of the last decade, and its musical DNA, pun absolutely intended, contains every single ingredient that a perfect World Cup anthem requires. The song opens with a whistled melody that is so instantly memorable, so maddeningly catchy, that it burrows into your brain within 3 seconds and refuses to leave. This is crucial for a World Cup anthem, because the song needs to be recognizable within the first note. Think of the opening whistle of Waka Waka or the trumpets of The Cup of Life. DNA passes that test with flying colors. That whistle is so iconic that if you played it in any country on Earth, in any stadium, in any context, at least half the crowd would immediately know what song it is. It's a universal identifier, a sonic fingerprint, and it's brilliant. The production, crafted by Dog, with contributions from Supreme Boy, Suga, RM, and hitmaker Cass, layers EDM synths over tropical house elements, creating a sound that is simultaneously futuristic and warm, electronic and organic, globally modern and distinctly Korean. The tempo sits at around 130 BPM, which places it firmly in the energetic dance pop territory that gets stadium crowds on their feet. But here's the genius: the arrangement constantly shifts. It moves from the whistle intro to a soft verse, to an explosive pre-chorus, to a massive drop-style chorus, to a stripped-back bridge, and back again. It breathes. It has dynamics. It takes you on a journey. And that journey, the rise and fall, the tension and release, the quiet moments before the explosion, mirrors the emotional arc of a World Cup match with eerie precision. The lyrics of DNA deserve their own doctoral thesis in the context of World Cup symbolism, because on the surface, this song is about romantic connection, about two people whose love was written in the stars, coded into their very genetic makeup, destined from the beginning of the universe. But zoom out, and those same lyrics become a breathtaking metaphor for the bond between a team and its nation, between a player and the game, between a fan and the sport they've loved since childhood. We were destined from the start. Isn't that what every football nation believes? That their love for the beautiful game isn't a choice, but an inheritance passed down through generations, woven into the cultural fabric of their country? The universe designed this connection. Isn't that what it feels like when a footballer scores a goal so perfect, so impossibly beautiful, that it seems like the laws of physics bent themselves to make it happen? Jungkook sings "I Knew It From the First Moment" with a conviction that transcends romance. It's the conviction of a child who kicks a ball for the first time and knows, in every fiber of their being, that football will define their life. V's voice adds a layer of ethereal beauty to the chorus that elevates the song beyond pop and into something almost spiritual. The kind of transcendence you feel when 80,000 people sing their national anthem in unison before a World Cup match, and the air itself seems to vibrate with collective faith. Jimin's vocals float through the melody with an emotional transparency that makes you feel the words rather than just hear them. This isn't just good singing, it's emotional communication on a level that crosses every language barrier, every cultural divide, every demographic boundary. A Brazilian grandmother and a Korean teenager and a Nigerian businessman and a German college student all feel the same thing when they hear Jimin sing, and that is the definition of a World Cup anthem. Let's talk about the visual spectacle of DNA, because the music video is a masterpiece of color theory, choreography, and cinematic ambition that would make any FIFA opening ceremony director weep with envy. The video opens in a kaleidoscopic universe of vibrant colors, pinks, blues, purples, oranges, that shift and swirl like the inside of a galaxy being born. Each member occupies their own visual world, connected by invisible threads, literally. Strings appear in the video, linking the members together like neurons in a cosmic brain. The choreography is intricate and hypnotic, with formations that create geometric patterns when viewed from above, circles that expand and contract like heartbeats, lines that weave and intersect like the double helix of a DNA strand. There's a moment in the dance break where the members form a structure that looks like a football formation, a diamond midfield, with players positioned at precise intervals, moving in coordinated patterns that any tactical analyst would recognize. Whether this was intentional or not, the visual effect is stunning, and it translates perfectly to the kind of aerial view choreography that defines World Cup ceremonies. Every FIFA opening ceremony uses hundreds of performers on the pitch to create geometric patterns for the television audience. DNA achieves the same visual impact with just 7 performers. That's not efficiency, that's artistry of the highest order. The global cultural impact of DNA also needs to be addressed, because this song didn't just chart, it shifted the entire axis of global pop music. DNA was the song that made Western media outlets finally ask the question, is K-pop the future of popular music? It was covered by Time magazine, Rolling Stone, Billboard, The Guardian, and hundreds of other publications that had never taken Korean music seriously before. It opened doors that had been sealed shut for decades, not just for BTS, but for every Korean artist that followed. It proved that pop music doesn't have to originate in New York or London or Los Angeles to dominate the world. It proved that a song sung partially in Korean could resonate with audiences who don't speak a word of the language. And that proof of universal resonance across linguistic and cultural barriers is the single most important quality a World Cup anthem can possess. The World Cup is watched by an estimated 3.5 billion people across over 200 countries. The official anthem needs to work for all of them. DNA has already proven, with nearly 2 billion video views from virtually every country on the planet, that it works for all of them. The data doesn't lie. The evidence is overwhelming. DNA is a World Cup anthem that just happened to be released without FIFA's logo on it. So why does DNA sit at number 3 instead of claiming the crown? Because as genetically perfect as this song is, as catchy, as colorful, as universally resonant as it has proven itself to be, the two songs above it possess something that DNA doesn't quite reach. They carry a weight, a gravitas, a sense of epic scale that transforms them from pop songs into full-blown experiences. DNA is a flawless pop anthem. The songs above it are monuments. They're the kind of tracks that don't just soundtrack a World Cup, they define an era of human culture. And that distinction, however razor-thin, is what separates a spectacular number 3 from the legends that await. Number 2. Idol, the cultural war cry that could unite every nation on Earth. Number 2, and I need you to physically sit down for this one, even if you're already sitting, because the song we are about to discuss didn't just raise the bar for what a World Cup anthem could be, it picked up the bar, snapped it in half, and used the pieces to build a throne. We're talking about Idol, released on August 24, 2018, as the explosive lead single from BTS's repackaged album Love Yourself, Answer, and This is the Song, This is the Song. That made me genuinely angry at FIFA for the first time in my life. Because Idol is not just a pop track. It's not just a K-pop banger. It's a civilizational statement. It's the sound of every culture on Earth colliding in a supernova of pride, joy, defiance, and celebration, and it is so overwhelmingly, so absurdly perfect for a FIFA World Cup that sitting here analyzing it instead of hearing it blast through a stadium in front of 1 billion viewers feels like a crime against humanity. If DNA is the genetic code of a World Cup anthem, then Idol is the beating heart, raw, pounding, alive, and absolutely unstoppable. Let me take you back to August 2018, because the world BTS was operating in when they dropped Idol is essential to understanding why this song hits the way it does. By mid-2018, BTS had fully arrived on the global stage. Their album Love Yourself, Tear, had debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, the first Korean album to ever achieve that milestone. They were selling out stadiums worldwide. They were on the cover of Time magazine. They had spoken at the United Nations General Assembly. They were, by any objective measurement, the biggest musical act on the planet. And yet, the criticism hadn't stopped. Western gatekeepers still questioned their authenticity. Music industry veterans still asked whether BTS was real artistry or just manufactured product. Korean conservatives criticized them for becoming too Western. International fans debated whether they should sing in English to expand their audience. Everyone had an opinion about who BTS should be. And Idol was the answer to all of them. Every single one. In one song. 3 minutes and 43 seconds of pure, distilled, thermonuclear identity. The message was devastatingly simple. You can call me whatever you want. Artist. Idol. Fake. Real. Korean. Global. I don't care. I know who I am, and I'm going to celebrate who I am so loudly that the entire planet hears it. If that message doesn't embody the spirit of the FIFA World Cup, where 32 nations show up to represent their identity with absolute pride and absolute passion, then nothing in the history of music ever will. Now let's dive into the musical architecture of Idol, because this is where things get genuinely insane. The production, led by the legendary Dog with contributions from RM, Suga, Supreme Boy, and hitmaker Oli Tamposi, is unlike anything BTS had ever released before, and arguably unlike anything any mainstream pop act had attempted at that scale. The foundation of the track is built on traditional Korean musical elements, specifically elements drawn from Korean folk music traditions including pungmul, a genre of percussion-heavy communal performance music that has been part of Korean culture for centuries. The opening seconds feature a sampled Korean traditional instrument pattern that immediately announces to the listener, this is not your typical pop song. This is something ancient. This is something sacred. But then, and this is the stroke of genius that makes Idol a World Cup anthem candidate of the highest order, the production layers South African musical elements on top of the Korean foundation. Specifically, the track incorporates elements of calm and South African house music, creating a fusion that sounds like Seoul and Johannesburg had a musical baby, and that baby grew up to become the most electrifying performer on earth. The South African influence isn't superficial or tokenistic, it's woven into the DNA of the song, with rhythmic patterns, bass textures, and melodic structures that feel authentically rooted in South African musical tradition. This Korean-South African fusion is groundbreaking, and it perfectly mirrors the World Cup's identity as a meeting point of global cultures. When South Africa hosted the 2010 World Cup, the world fell in love with the vuvuzela, with African rhythms, with the energy of a continent celebrating the beautiful game. Idol captures that same cross-cultural magic, and it does it organically, respectfully, and brilliantly. The chant. Oh God, the chant. We need to talk about the chant because it is the single most stadium-ready moment in BTS's entire catalog, and I will die on this hill. Dolseek, 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 derived from the Korean word, which roughly translates to bouncing up or stirring with excitement, is repeated throughout the song as a communal rally cry that is so primal, so infectious, so physically compelling that it makes every other stadium chant in modern music sound like a polite golf clap by comparison. When BTS performs Idol Live, the Dolseek chant transforms the venue into a tribal gathering. Tens of thousands of voices chanting in unison, bouncing up and down, creating a seismic wave of human energy that you can literally feel in your chest even through a phone screen. Now imagine that chant in a World Cup stadium. Imagine 80,000 football fans from 50 different countries, none of whom speak Korean, all chanting Dolseek, Dolseek, Dolseek in thunderous unison because the rhythm is so fundamental, so universal, so deeply human that it bypasses language entirely and speaks directly to the ancient part of your brain that wants to be part of a tribe. This isn't speculation. This is exactly what happened at BTS concerts worldwide. Fans from Brazil, from Saudi Arabia, from France, from Ghana, from Japan, all chanting Korean words they didn't understand because the energy was the language. The World Cup does this already. Think of the Icelandic HH clap from Euro 2016 that went viral globally. Idol has its own version of that, except it's been battle-tested in stadiums across 6 continents and has a 100% success rate at inducing mass euphoria. FIFA could have had this. FIFA should have had this. The chorus is another masterpiece of World Cup-ready songwriting. You Can't Stop Me Lovin' Myself, sung with an exuberance that borders on ecstasy, is a declaration of self-worth that carries explosive power in a sporting context. Every team that walks onto the World Cup pitch needs that energy. Every nation that qualifies for the tournament after years of heartbreak and near misses needs to hear those words. You can't stop me. For words. Universal. Unchallengeable. Absolute. When RM delivers his verse with the confident swagger of a captain leading his team out of the tunnel, when Suga drops bars about letting the haters talk while he keeps winning, when J-Hope brings his trademark energy with a verse that practically levitates off the beat, the combined effect is a sonic tidal wave that captures every single emotion the World Cup generates: pride, defiance, joy, belonging, and an unshakable belief that this moment, this team, this identity is worth celebrating with every ounce of energy you possess. The music video deserves its own paragraph because it is an absolute spectacle. Directed by Young-suk Choi of Lumpens, BTS's go to visual architects. The Idol video is a psychedelic explosion of cultural imagery. Traditional Korean hanbok blends with futuristic fashion. Ancient palace architecture morphs into neon-lit dreamscapes. BTS performs choreography that references traditional Korean dance movements alongside contemporary hip-hop and South African dance styles. There's a moment where the members are positioned against a backdrop of swirling, kaleidoscopic patterns that look like a satellite view of a stadium filled with fans wearing different colors: blues, reds, yellows, greens, representing nations, representing the world coming together in one visual symphony. The video surpassed 100 million views in its first week and currently stands at over 1.7 billion views. A separate version featuring Nicki Minaj, yes, the Nicki Minaj, one of the most iconic rappers in American history, added yet another cultural layer to the song's already unprecedented fusion. Nicki's verse brought Caribbean-American flavor into the Korean-South African mix, creating a triple fusion track that literally spans 3 continents. No World Cup anthem in FIFA history has ever achieved that level of genuine, organic cultural representation. Not one. The live performance legacy of Idol solidifies its World Cup credentials beyond any shadow of doubt. At their Love Yourself World Tour, BTS opened shows with Idol, and the reaction was volcanic. Pyrotechnics exploded. Confetti cannons fired. The stage literally shook from the force of the audience jumping in unison. Concert-goers reported that the bass vibrations from the crowd's synchronized bouncing registered on seismometers near the venues. This isn't an exaggeration. It was documented in Seoul, in London, in Los Angeles. Idol creates earthquakes. Literal, measurable, scientifically verifiable seismic events caused by the sheer power of human beings moving together. If that doesn't qualify a song for the World Cup, an event whose defining characteristic is the ability to make the entire planet move in unison, then the qualification criteria need to be rewritten immediately. Number 1. On. The marching band masterpiece that was born to be the greatest World Cup anthem of all time. This is it. The summit. The throne. The absolute, undeniable, carved in stone, echoed through eternity. Number 1. And if you've been on this journey from number 7 all the way to this moment, then you already know, you can feel it in your bones, that whatever sits at this spot has to be something so extraordinary, so breathtakingly massive, so far beyond the realm of ordinary pop music that it doesn't just compete with official FIFA World Cup anthems, it makes them look like warm-up acts. Ladies and gentlemen, Army and football fans, believers and skeptics, I present to you the single most World Cup-ready song that has ever existed outside of an official FIFA partnership, released on February 21st, 2020. As the lead single from BTS's landmark album, Map of the Soul, 7, and I am telling you right now, with every fiber of my being, with every ounce of credibility I have ever accumulated, this song is the greatest World Cup anthem that the World Cup never had, and the fact that it exists without a FIFA logo attached to it is the single biggest missed opportunity in the history of sports and music. This is On. Let's set the scene, because understanding where BTS was when they created On is absolutely critical to understanding why this song hits like a freight train wrapped in a thunderstorm. February 2020. BTS had just completed the most dominant run in modern pop music history. They had 3 consecutive number 1 albums on the Billboard 200. They had spoken at the United Nations twice. They had been named one of Time magazine's most influential people. They had generated an estimated $5 billion annually for the South Korean economy. They were 7 men who had started with nothing, literally nothing, a tiny company, a cramped dorm room, an industry that laughed at them, and had risen to become the biggest musical act on the planet through sheer talent, relentless work, and an unbreakable bond with their fans. And Map of the Soul, 7, was their reflection on that journey. It was BTS looking in the mirror after 7 years of blood, sweat, and tears. The album's working title was not accidental, and asking, who are we now? What have we become? And what are we willing to sacrifice to keep going? On was the answer. And the answer was everything. The song opens, and this is where I need you to close your eyes and listen, really listen, with a marching band. Not a synthesized marching band. Not a sampled marching band. A real, full-scale, brass and drums marching band playing a fanfare so grand, so regal, so overwhelmingly powerful that it sounds like the gates of a coliseum opening before the greatest battle in human history. The drums hit first, deep, resonant, thunderous bass drums that sound like a giant's heartbeat, followed by snare rolls that crackle like lightning across a stormy sky. Then the brass enters, trumpets, trombones, tubas, playing a melody that is equal parts military march and royal anthem, a melody that announces with absolute authority that something monumental is about to happen. This opening is not an introduction. It's a coronation. It's the sound that should play when 32 nations line up in a stadium for the World Cup opening ceremony. It's the sound that should echo through the tunnel as players walk onto the pitch for the final. It's the sound that should shake the foundations of every stadium on Earth when the referee blows the first whistle. No World Cup anthem in FIFA history, not Waka Waka, not The Cup of Life, not We Are One, not Live It Up, none of them has an opening that matches the sheer cinematic majesty of On. Not one. This is not opinion. This is architectural fact. The sonic scale of On's opening is objectively, measurably, undeniably bigger than anything FIFA has ever commissioned. And the fact that it was created by a K-pop group from Seoul rather than a hand-picked team of international superstars assembled by a multi-billion-dollar sports organization is either the greatest accident in music history or proof that BTS operates on a creative plane that the rest of the industry simply cannot reach. The production of On is a technical marvel that deserves to be studied in music schools for generations. Produced by Dog, alongside contributions from RM, Suga, J-Hope, Antonina Armato, and Tim Bowers, the track is built on layers of sonic complexity that reveal new details with every listen. The marching band foundation is overlaid with trap-influenced 808 bass, creating a collision of military grandeur and modern hip-hop that sounds like ancient warriors armed with futuristic weapons. The tempo sits at approximately 106 BPM, deliberately slower than most of BTS's high-energy tracks, because On doesn't need speed to generate power. It generates power through weight. Every beat lands like a hammer on an anvil. Every bass note reverberates through your entire body. Every drum fill escalates the tension like the minutes ticking down in a World Cup final. The chorus, "Can't Hold Me Down 'Cause You Know I'm a Fighter," is delivered with a vocal intensity that borders on spiritual possession. Jungkook's voice soars above the marching band like a flag being raised over a conquered fortress. Jimin's harmonies weave through the brass like golden threads through iron armor. V's baritone adds a depth and darkness that grounds the euphoria in something raw and real. Jin's sustained notes ring out like bells in a cathedral, calling the faithful to witness something divine. And over all of this orchestral, military, spiritual, hip-hop chaos, RM, Suga, and J-Hope deliver rap verses that are simultaneously personal confessions and universal battle cries, telling the story of every human being who has ever faced impossible odds and chosen to fight anyway. All right, what a ride. What an absolute, breathtaking, emotionally devastating ride that was. Before we close this channel for good, let's lock in everything we just experienced, the full picture, the complete mosaic, the definitive ranking that FIFA needs to frame on their wall and study before every single future World Cup anthem selection meeting. What makes this list so remarkable isn't just the individual songs, it's the range. From the silky grooves of Butter to the seismic marching band thunder of On, BTS has inadvertently created an entire World Cup soundtrack without ever being asked to. They've covered every emotional beat a tournament needs, the pre-match hype, fire, the tactical confidence, mic drop, the global sing-along, DNA, the cultural celebration, idol, the universal unity, permission to dance, the post-victory party, Butter, and the anthem that ties it all together, On. 7 songs. 7 members. 7 years of the Map of the Soul journey. The number 7 runs through BTS like a golden thread, and the World Cup, with its month-long celebration of the beautiful game, could not ask for a more complete musical companion. The deeper truth here, the one that sits beneath all the chart numbers and view counts and award wins, is that BTS and the FIFA World Cup share the same DNA, pun very much intended. Both are about transcendence. Both prove that language is not a barrier when emotion is the message. Both turn strangers into family. Both create moments so powerful that they become permanent landmarks in the memory of everyone who witnesses them. BTS didn't set out to make World Cup anthems. They set out to make music that means something, music that captures the full spectrum of being human, from the darkest struggles to the brightest triumphs. And it just so happens that the full spectrum of being human is exactly what the World Cup puts on display every 4 years. So the next time you hear the opening whistle of a World Cup anthem and think, that's good, but something's missing, now you know what's missing. It's 7 voices from Seoul. It's a marching band that sounds like destiny. It's a chant that creates earthquakes. It's BTS. And one day, maybe one day, FIFA will finally make the call. Until then, we'll be here, building the playlist the World Cup deserves. This has been the top 7 BTS FIFA World Cup songs you won't believe aren't official. Channel closed.